The Industrial Revolution was a very important time period for the United States of America. It advanced the economy, expanded trade throughout the nation, and helped create technological breakthroughs. People like Alexander Graham Bell, Thomas Edison, Abraham Lincoln, Grenville Dodge, and Theodore Judah were crucial in the Industrial Revolution. Bell with the telephone, Edison with the light bulb and camera, Abraham Lincoln, known as the father of the Transcontinental Railroad, Dodge as the chief engineer and driving force in the railroad, and Judah creating the route through the Sierra Nevada. These great men changed the way Americans communicated, built, transported, and lived. With these technological breakthroughs, America gained much more access to resources such as iron, coal, and most importantly, oil.
Uses of natural resources. Many resources such as coal, gold, iron, tungsten, and sand were used in different types of ways to help benefit the expansion of the American Industrial Revolution and American economy. Sand was primarily used to make glass that would be used in camera lenses, windows, films, and other applications such as printing. Gold, obviously, would be used for personal profit because of its value, and would later be used as conductors in electronics in the mid to late 20th century. Tungsten would be used as a filament in the late 1800s for light bulbs and minor construction purposes. Black gold, otherwise known as oil, would become the most useful natural resource of the modern day. This would lubricate machinery, fuel early cars, grow the economy, and begin to heat homes in the 1920s. Iron would help create steel beams using the Bessemer process and would be used to build skyscrapers, aeromachinery, automobiles, trains, tools, and would be the primary construction resource for the next 120 years. Coal was primarily used to heat homes and fuel trains in the late 19th century.
The use of natural resources and the progression of the Transcontinental Railroad led to massive advances in the evolution of what America would be today. Around 1850, Samuel F.B. Morse created the famous Morse code. This led to the first telegraph being invented. This invention was a way for people to communicate through wirely transmitted information. The first message that Morse sent was from Washington, D.C. and was delivered to Baltimore, Maryland. Not long after this, the Morse code went national. It's been said that the telegraph helped President Lincoln win the Civil War. By 1866, the telegraph had gone international, crossing the Atlantic Ocean from the U.S. to Europe.
The invention of the telephone came soon after this. Alexander Graham Bell, a scientist who worked at the School for the Deaf, wanted to create a machine that transmitted sound through electricity. On March 7, 1876, the patent for the telephone was made. By March 10, 1876, the very famous first coherent sentence, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want you," was transmitted.
Another important inventor was Henry Bessemer. In the year 1856, he developed the first process for manufacturing steel inexpensively. This led to the invention of the Bessemer converter. His invention was important to the Industrial Revolution because since the Bessemer process made such a mass production of steel, it lowered the cost and made steel a big substitute for iron.
The final inventor is the great Thomas Edison, the inventor of the perfected light bulb. Many inventors before him tried to successfully create a light bulb that would shine for hours, but they failed. Their light bulbs were unreliable and expensive. Edison then discovered a way to make the light bulb that lit for hours and was economically reasonable. To this day, we use the light bulb for countless uses.
The Transcontinental Railroad was a railroad that connected the eastern United States to the American West. The railroad was built by two major companies. It was built by the Union Pacific Railroad Company and the Central Pacific Railroad Company. A ride on the Transcontinental Railroad wasn't cheap. The fare from Omaha to San Francisco in a third-class sleeping car was about $65. One man who was particularly important to the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad didn't even live to see it completed. Abraham Lincoln, known as the father of the Transcontinental Railroad. After his election to the presidency, Lincoln made his mark on railroad history. Secession brought an end to the political stalemate that had stalled congressional action to support a Pacific Railroad. Lincoln was free to sign, in July of 1862, the Pacific Railroad Bill that put the federal government behind the Transcontinental Project. When Lincoln was assassinated in 1865, the nation lost a great leader, and the Transcontinental Railroad, still 4 long years from completion, lost one of its most valuable partisans. Another man, Grenville Dodge, who had achieved the rank of general in the Union Army during the Civil War. After retiring from the military, Dodge was hired to be the chief engineer of the Union Pacific Railroad Company. He brought his military knowledge and power and became the driving force behind the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad. An equally important man was Theodore Judah. He brought in many key investors in the Pacific Railroad, who would ultimately see the project through as the newly incorporated Central Pacific Railroad. Judah also followed a feasible route through the Sierra Nevada. Sitting on top of a ridge at Donner Pass with financial backing and a workable route on his side, Judah went to Washington to canvass for government support in the Pacific Railroad Bill, which Lincoln signed in 1862.